Hello, and welcome to 3 Inning Fan, the podcast with me, Kelley Franco. We have a tremendous show coming up, and if you're not already following me, I hope you will on Instagram and X at 3 Inning Fan. That's all one word. Or if you're more of a Facebook or YouTube kind of person, that's 3 Inning Fan, 3 words. So, pretty quiet week last night. Nothing going on in baseball. Said absolutely no one in the whole wide world. Last night, we hit the trade deadline, and the timing of today's show is perfect. GMs have been calling on the hotline for your love, for your love. Okay, they weren't calling for your love. They were calling for your players. And also, they were probably texting and not calling because that's the way the kids do it. Either way, I have my analysis of the Mets and the Yankees moves, and we'll also get outside the New York baseball bubble to keep you posted on everything that happened around the league. 3 Inning Fan listeners get the latest baseball news in the most expedient and entertaining manner. And remember that each like, listen, download, follow, subscribe, or even a nice tweet is like sending me a bouquet of flowers, but it costs you nothing. Unless those flowers are from my follower, Rick Canale, the most famous and finest florist in Boston. Okay, let's talk about some baseball. And I want to start not with a team, but with a player. And not with a trade, but with a non-trade. And you may be asking yourself, is this person actually a team player? We're going to talk about Garrett Crochet. It was reported by John Heyman that Garrett Crochet, who interestingly was not traded by the White Sox, indicated that if he were traded, he would not pitch in the postseason unless he got a contract extension. He also said that he didn't want to go to the bullpen. He wanted to stay a starter. He viewed his starter routine as the best thing for his health. Crochet would not confirm or deny the report. So I'm curious as to how these comments leaked, perhaps through his agent. I don't know. He has pitched more innings this year than in the past. Okay, let's go over this. Crochet was a reliever in 2020 and 2021. He had Tommy John surgery in 2022. Then he pitched only 12 innings in 2023. So this is his first year as a starter, and we really don't know what his innings pitched ceiling is. He's already at 114. So, of course, it's understandable that he doesn't want to be hurt. Let me get that out there. I do not blame him for looking after his own health, but I think there are some interesting factors going on here. As background, Crochet is earning $800,000 this year and has 2 more years of arbitration until he's a free agent. He's represented by the agency CAA, the same agency that represented Josh Hader and enforced the Hader rules to manage his workload before he reached free agency. Now, like I said, of course, Crochet should look out for his own health, but if a team were to trade for him, wouldn't they have a right to expect he would pitch in October? And surprise, no contender wanted to trade enough to get him. So I've never heard of a pitcher saying he wouldn't pitch in October. I'm not saying it hasn't happened before, but I just haven't heard of it. So was he trying to dampen his own trade market? Maybe. And he did. He knew if he stayed with the White Sox, he wouldn't pitch in the postseason because they're awful. The White Sox GM Chris Getz was clearly not thrilled with Crochet's sentiments as they were expressed in the media. No doubt the White Sox were depending on this trade to obtain an enormous haul of prospects. To me, Crochet's demand for an extension to pitch in the postseason indicated, and this is a guess, that he thinks there's a good chance he could get injured, and he wanted to have a signed contract before that happens. He wants to preserve his health for a post-arbitration contract, because why insist on an extension unless you think you're going to get hurt? So you know what? I didn't like it. I think players should put their team first. And I don't like that players want their salaries determined based on them pitching or playing under perfect circumstances when they're used to having a reduced workload or demanding a reduced workload, and they're treated with kid gloves. That's an old-time expression. Do people still say that? He was treated when they're being treated with kid gloves. I think, we have to ask ourselves, should we really be evaluating players for their contractual worth based on how they perform when they're wrapped in bubble wrap? No. They should be evaluated based on how they perform in the real world. And the real world includes showing up for your team in the capacity needed. As a starter, you need to take the ball every 5 days. If they need you in the bullpen or they need you in the postseason, barring an exceptional circumstance, you do it. And your teammates do it for you. The goal should be to win. This isn't a competition about who makes the most money. This is a competition about winning. On Monday, we saw Orioles catcher James McCann get hit in the face with a 94-mile-per-hour fastball. Not the helmet, the face. I don't know if he broke his nose. It looked like he broke his nose. But you know what he did? He stayed in the game for another 8 innings. It was the first game of a doubleheader, and he didn't want his teammate, Adley Rutschman, to have to catch both games of the doubleheader. And he also didn't want to force the Orioles to go out and, try to get a catcher promoted immediately, which basically would have put the team in a hard place because we don't know if that would have been possible. That's the kind of team player I want. Now, I know the situations are different because Crochet is trying to protect his value until he's able to sign his first free agent contract. But McCann will be a free agent after this year. He has a career to protect and, by the way, also a face to protect. But he was out there for his team. The takeaway of the Crochet situation is fascinating to me because this is really, I think, the focus here. Because like I said, if he wants to make a personal decision about his health, he's entitled to do that. But I think we have to look at this in the larger picture in terms of Major League Baseball and the contracts that we're handing out. I believe that we are entering an era where players will start to make their own rules as to how and whether they are used as they anticipate signing a big contract. It will become more and more common to see these types of demands from players, especially premium ones who feel that they can make their own rules. Mark my words, in another few years, this will be commonplace. All right, let's talk about the Mets and the Yankees, and then we'll get out of the New York bubble. We're talking about the trade deadline moves. Let's start with the Mets. So they acquired bullpen guys. They got Ryan Stanek, right-handed pitching reliever from the Mariners, 33 years old, 6-3, 4.38 ERA at the time of the trade. Got Phil Maton a few weeks back, as you know, from the Rays. And then they got a couple of more interesting acquisitions, okay? A few days ago, the Mets got the left-handed bat they needed in Jesse Winker. They got him from the Nationals in exchange for pitching prospect Tyler Stewart. Winker was hitting .257 with 11 homers at the time of the trade. He has some pop and some plate discipline. An interesting aspect of this trade, Jesse Winker's history with Mets fans. Have you heard about it but weren't quite sure what it was? Well, here it is. It goes back to when Winker was a Red. He made a very fine game-ending catch against the Mets and gave kind of this sarcastic wave goodbye to Mets fans. He has been booed at Citi Field ever since. Well, guess what? Now he's there. So do Mets fans care now? No. Fans care about one thing. That's winning. And if Jesse will help the Mets fans win games, the Mets fans will have no trouble welcoming him. Winker's owed $700,000 for the balance of this season, and then he will be a free agent. I like the Winker trade. The Mets didn't give up a lot for him, and Winker slots in well with questions surrounding Starling Marte's health. One interesting aspect I've noted over the past couple of weeks is that Jeff McNeil, is on fire. His name was several weeks ago floated in trade talks. And actually, I think they were floated up until pretty recently. But Jeff just got on fire, and timing is everything. He's still a Met. In the category of nobody told me there'd be days like these, Kodai Senga. Oh, this was hurtful. He missed the first half of the season with a shoulder issue, then finally appeared in his first game Friday night, and he was pitching great, and now he's out for the regular season. Any postseason appearances kind of up in the air right now, so say your rosaries. He suffered a high-grade strain to his calf when he was making a play off the mound in Friday night's game against the Braves. Now, I spoke a couple of weeks ago about how the Mets had a surplus of starters with Quintana, Severino, Minaya, Peterson, McGill, Christian Scott, and Senga coming back. It looked like it would be an embarrassment of riches. Well, if you were listening, you'll also recall that I said don't trade any of them because you can lose pitching in a heartbeat. Well, guess what? We lost pitching in a heartbeat. We had Senga for a hot second, and now Scott has been shut down with a strained UCL. But so first of all, before the panic sets in, remember, the Mets got to where they are without Senga, so they can keep going. But they would have been, of course, better with him. And without Scott, they definitely needed a starter. So all of a sudden, the Mets starting rotation was kind of within steps of a total disaster. So at the trade deadline, they got the righty pitcher Paul Blackburn from the A's. So Blackburn was, I think, like the A's' best starter for the first couple of months of the season. But now he's just off the 60-day IL he had a stress fracture in his foot. He has a 7.11 ERA over his last 6 starts. Will he fit the bill for them? Let's be honest. It's a little bit of an underwhelming acquisition, okay? Especially when you consider the options that were out there. Blake Snell's name was bandied about for the Giants. He didn't have a good start to the season. He was hurt, and then when he finally started pitching, he wasn't pitching well. But then the past few weeks, he's been pitching really well. And there were rumors that the Giants were taking calls on him, and I think he would have been a nice fit in New York, even though he just pitches 5 innings at a time. But hey, you know what? We didn't get him. The Mets didn't get him, and they didn't get any of the other big names that were bandied about for starting pitching. They got Blackburn. Blackburn comes with another year of team control, which is good because considering the Mets rotation, you have to remember that Severino and Quintana are free agents at the end of the season, and Minaya has a player option. So we've got some questions on the rotation after 2024. I suspect if Stearns had his way, he wouldn't have minded selling off some parts and continuing his rebuild for 2025. That's just my hunch. But when the Mets played so well in June and July, and now they're in for a wild card position, he kind of couldn't be a seller. So he made some modest upgrades and didn't give away any of his prized prospects, and that's how we did it. All right, let's talk about the Yankees for a little bit. The Yankees got Jazz Chisholm Jr., and if I hear one more person say, he's really jazzed to be a Yankee, I'm not going to be happy. But anyway, Jazz has been great. He hit 2 homers last night against the Phillies. He's a dynamic, versatile player. He's a lefty bat, and Yankees love lefty bats that pull because we've got that short porch there. He's under team control through the 2026 season, so that's nice. He's an outfielder, but he's also seen time at second base, and he's taking reps at third base. He was in at third base the other night for the Yankees. So he's got some versatility. The Yankees traded their catching prospect, Agustin Ramirez, and 2 other prospects, infielder Jared Cerna and utility guy Abraham Ramirez. The Yankees did not have to part with Spencer Jones or Jason Dominguez, which is good news. Chisholm was ebullient about the trade, saying that every kid dreams of being a Yankee. I often wonder if this is kind of part of the script that the agents give players every time they're traded. Like there's a blank at the end that they're going to fill in as soon as they know what team they're traded to. I've always dreamed of being a, wait for it, Yankee. Anyway, he's wearing number 13. That's A-Rod's old number, you'll remember. Very interesting choice. Chisholm is from the Bahamas, and apparently Bahamians are quite excited about the move. And even their prime minister, Philip David, reached out to Chisholm to express his excitement about it. So Chisholm will likely see some time in the middle of the lineup and maybe even as a leadoff hitter. He's played center field. He had some nice plays at third base, so he's added some spark as the solid defender that he is. Gleyber Torres, as a side note, has indicated he's not interested in moving around from places other than second base. So that's noteworthy, and he's still a Yankee after the trade deadline. Torres has been like in every trade rumor ever, every year, and he never gets traded. So anyway, what do I think about the acquisition of Chisholm? I like it. There were some concerns that Chisholm may not fit into the Yankee clubhouse, but you know what? Chisholm has energy. He's a little bit irreverent, and I think that's exactly what the Yankees need. So I think the Yankee clubhouse has this tendency to be too serious. And I don't mean just this Yankee team. I mean like every Yankee team since I was a little kid. Honestly, it's always a clubhouse that has some rules. I mean, they have the obvious rules about facial hair, but they seem to have kind of a way that you act and a way that you be. And when you get someone who's got this kind of irreverent energy, I think it's kind of nice when the rest of the team can get loosened up a bit. Chisholm has great speed. He's got pop to his bat. He steals bases. I think if you put him in the leadoff spot, a walk turns into a guy on second. And I think that if you slot him in after Soto, Judge, and then maybe Wells, and then him, you're going to see a lot fewer walks to Soto and Judge. So I think that this is going to work well with the Yankee lineup. Don't forget, just a week ago or so, there was J.D. Davis hitting cleanup, okay? J.D. Davis was released by the A's. He was hitting cleanup for the Yankees. That was painful. He's been DFA'd. Those days are over. The Yankees have been criticized for having only two bats, Soto and Judge. You know what? A little bit of an overstatement, yeah, but let's face it. There's a pound of truth in that. So the acquisition of Chisholm is going to help. The Yankees also have historically relied on home run hitters, and I think when you get a guy in there who's got some speed, it makes it a lot more fun to watch. So not only might Chisholm change the Yankees, but I think the Yankees might change Chisholm too. Why do I say this? Well, apparently he wasn't the easiest guy to get along with in Miami. And also he was hitting .248 at the time of the trade with a .323 on base percentage. His lifetime batting's .246. So these numbers are kind of meh. But he's been in a small market, and now he's in New York. And I think he is going to step up now that he is on the big screen. And you know what else? He's not the best guy on the team. So he's going to have a chance to challenge himself and make himself a better player and improve in a way that maybe he didn't have when he was a Marlin. He can step up. And if he does, it's going to be fun to watch. So my friend Kevin Kernan wrote in his piece last week in Ball 9. It was a great piece about Jazz Chisholm that you really should go read. He said, for the first time in his young career, Jazz is being told, just go play baseball. You are not the show. Aaron Judge and Juan Soto are the show. So that was a nice piece by Kevin Kernan. The Yankees also acquired veteran reliever Mark Leiter from the Cubs. Fun fact. Mark is the son of Mark Leiter Sr. You already knew his uncle, Al Leiter. So both Mark Leiter Sr. and Al Leiter pitched for the Yankees. You might have known about Al. I knew about Al. But I didn't really know that Mark Sr. pitched for the Yankees. He pitched 26 innings for the Yankees in 1990. Anyway, I wasn't like super pumped about this acquisition of Mark Leiter, but then last night in the 10th inning against the Phillies, he kind of killed it. I mean, he got himself into a jam, but he kept his cool and he got out of the jam. So, he's a veteran and he's got some poise, and I was impressed. He was cool in a tight situation. One interesting tidbit I read today is that Ken Rosenthal reported that the Yankees backed out of a deal with the Tigers for Jack Flaherty, the starting pitcher that everybody wanted. Apparently, the Yankees had concerns about his lower back issues. I mentioned his back problems a few weeks back. I hope you were listening. Anyway, for the Yankees, maybe this brought deja vu over Frankie Montas. Remember that trade? So anyway, they didn't take Flaherty. Flaherty went to the Dodgers. By the way, the Dodgers, their possible postseason rotation, if everyone gets and stays healthy, Tyler Glasnow, Yamamoto, Kershaw, and Flaherty. Not too shabby. Anyway, okay, so that's a good segue into getting out of the New York bubble. Let's talk for a minute about the Orioles. They traded outfielder Austin Hayes to the Phillies for right-handed pitcher Sir Anthony Dominguez. I love his name because it always sounds like he's been knighted, Sir Anthony. But it's not two words, Sir. It's one word, Sir Anthony. So no, he's not a knight. He's just Sir Anthony. And the Orioles also got outfielder Christian Pache. It was a mutually beneficial trade. The Phillies needed a right-handed outfielder who could hit. And for the Orioles, Dominguez has a highish ERA, but he throws gas. He has a 97.6 average fastball, and he's got a good slider. And you know what? The Orioles really needed some bullpen help. This is an interesting trade because it was between two of the best teams in MLB this season. And I saw a new term. I don't know if it's new this year, but it was the first time I had seen it. It was called a challenge trade. And I thought that was kind of interesting, just kind of between two teams with good players, just seeing, who's going to come out on top in that. The O's also got another pitcher, a starter, Zach Eflin from the Rays. He's a veteran righty, 30 years old, under contract through 2025. They also got Trevor Rogers from the Marlins. We knew the Orioles needed pitching, and so we're just kind of left wondering here if this is enough for them. If I were an Orioles fan, I would have liked to have seen more, honestly. They're prospect rich, and they should have gotten a frontline starter to go along with Corbin Burns. I mean, I think Eflin and Rogers are good, but it would have been nice to see them spend some of their prospects to really go out there and get one of the great guys who was available. Of course, I don't think they should have parted with Jackson Holliday, but I do think they had other pieces to move. Let's talk for a minute about the Marlins. What in Sam Hill is going on there? I haven't thought much of them since they chased Kim Ng last offseason. She got them to the playoffs last year when nobody thought they would make it, okay? And it was reported that she chose to leave last offseason after they told her they were installing a president of baseball operations above her. They named Peter Bendix as the president of baseball ops, and Kim had left shortly before that. So in May, they traded Luis Ariz to the Padres, which was just premature, both in terms of waving the white flag on their season and in terms of maximizing Ariz's trade value. Can you imagine what they could have gotten for Ariz in this seller's market that was absolutely frothing this past week? And now they've traded Chisholm, they traded Josh Bell, Tanner Scott, and lefty Trevor Rogers. You got to wonder what direction they're moving in down there. In the category of, I'm going to make you see there's no one else there, no one like me. Take a look at the Padres. Oh, my goodness gracious. So they got Dylan Cease before the season. They got Luis Ariz before anyone started making trades. At this deadline, they got one of the most sought-after righty relievers, Jason Adam. He had been the setup guy for the Rays. I really wanted this guy. I wanted the Mets or the Yankees to get him, and I've mentioned him in the past few weeks. I know you were listening. And Adam is under team control through 2026. What a beautiful acquisition. And then yesterday, the Padres got Tanner Scott from the Marlins. Plus, they're playing great. They've won 8 of their last 10, and they're currently in the 3rd wild card position. They did mortgage their future in prospects that they gave away, okay? But let me tell you this. Their president of baseball ops, A.J. Preller, likes to win, and he acts like it. He's aggressive. I love it. They also needed a starter, and they got Martin Perez from the Pirates. I don't know a whole lot about him, honestly. I need to read up on him. They do have some starter issues, the Padres. Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish haven't pitched since late May. Musgrove was hurt, and he hopes to be pitching in rehab games soon. And Darvish is on the restricted list, tending to a private matter. So I would tell you to watch out for the Padres. Who I am glad went shopping. The Pirates. I'm kind of like really digging the Pirates right now. I got to tell you, they added Brian De La Cruz from the Marlins. He's got some power. They also got Isaiah Kiner Falefa, IKF, from the Jays. All New York folks remember IKF. And then Pittsburgh made some smaller trades with right-handed pitcher Quinn Priester going to the Boston Red Sox for a minor league infielder, Nick Yorke. And they also got a left-handed pitcher named Jalen Beeks from the Rockies. So the Pirates are in the NL wildcard hunt. They're 2 games out of the 3rd spot this morning. And you know what? I really want to see Paul Skeens and Jared Jones pitch in the postseason. So I'm kind of sort of hoping they get in there. Who I wish had sold something, or sold more, I should say, the A's. I really wanted them to sell Mason Miller or Brent Rooker to any team I know and love, but they didn't. What the heck is their problem? I don't know. I think it was a mistake. Who sold everything like Crazy Eddie's Christmas in July? Remember that commercial? His prices were insane. Anyway, the Marlins, who we already talked about, and the Rays. The Rays dealt Randy Arozarena to the Mariners, Zach Eflin to the O's, Isaac Paredes to the Cubs, Jason Adam to the Padres, Phil Maton to the Mets, and Aaron Savali to the Brewers, and probably some names that I'm forgetting. And the Rays would have traded their grandma if she weren't nailed down. They got rid of everybody. But you know what? The Rays know how to make a trade. They do. They saved themselves millions in salaries, got 14 prospects the last time I counted, but there are probably more, and 9 of them entered the team's top 30, according to MLB Pipeline. The Red Sox. We're winding up now here, but let me tell you, the Red Sox, it's not a trade, but it might have been their greatest trade deadline acquisition. Yeah, I know they got Paxton, but let me tell you about this. Last week, which now seems like it was about 17 years ago, the Red Sox has extended Alex Cora. They signed him to a 3-year contract extension through the 2027 season. His deal was slated to expire at the end of this year. The deal is reported to be worth $21.75 million, making it the second highest salary for an MLB manager, aside from Craig Counsell's 5-year, $40 million deal with $40 million deal with the Cubs last offseason. So I think we're entering a new era of very high salaries for managers. I should say, relatively higher salaries for managers, because when you compare it to what the players make, it's still a rounding error, okay? But Council broke the mold last offseason, and the best managers in the game, like he and Cora, I think moving forward are going to be commanding higher prices. So the Red Sox are in the wild card hunt. They've hit a bit of a bump since the All-Star break, but they should stick in there, and we'll see how they do in this back third of the season. So, we covered a lot of ground there. I tried to talk really fast today. I hope I got it all in. So let's go to our closer. What's good to eat while watching the ball game? Okay, so we had an exciting few days in our household because we had a huge harvest, and now we get to both eat as much of it as we can and also save as much for the winter as we can. And so one of the things that we grew at our property in upstate New York is chard. It's called Swiss chard. And it's kind of like spinach, but with more personality. And we grew 10 pounds of chard. We had to carry it home in these Santa Claus type bags. We had so much of it. And so you're thinking, well, what do you do with chard? And because it's kind of similar to spinach, if you're Greek or Italian, you've probably had spinach pies in the past. And so I have a recipe for chard pies. And last night, me and my husband, Tom, thank you, Tom, he was a warrior. He washed 10 pounds of chard and then chopped up 10 pounds of chard. And we cook it up with onions and garlic and then mix it up with Parmigiano Reggiano, raisins, toasted pine nuts, all sorts of good things, a little bit of crushed red pepper because I like things a little spicy. I made my own pastry, 6 pies worth of pastry, rolled it out, stuffed it. We have 6 beautiful chard pies that are now in our freezer that we will enjoy when the weather gets cooler. So I'm really excited that we were able to grow that and harvest it and put it up for the winter. The whole thing kind of makes me feel like a little bit colonial, but I get really proud about growing my own food and being able to use it, and also, of course, sharing it with others, which is the best part of cooking. So we are entering the last third of the baseball season. The pressure is on. I hope you'll join me again next week. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.